What are you expecting? You have made it, but what are you expecting? Hallelujah. You are good. You are calm. You know, this song is in my head for like weeks. Sometimes I sing it over all the time. You are good. You are calm. From transmission within, I mix it up my own way all the time. You know, God leads us with songs to sing. The Bible says that with all that you have in the Spirit is by singing. So I want to share with you a quick message today about expectation in order to receive a miracle. And then we'll pray for today so that we'll end this year on high, that God will come through. It's been my prayer that the expectation of our people this year are met by God. Not by me, but by God. And so I want to share quickly message on that, and then we'll pray. And I want to pray from the depth of my heart today as well, to impart, to do deliverance, and to pray for the sick as God allows. Let's open our scripture, Luke chapter 8, verse 43 to 48. Expectation. This is a story about a woman who had an issue of blood or flow of blood. Other translation says issue of blood. Other translation says a flow of blood. This was her issue. So I want us to read. This message comes from this story of this woman. And I want you to put yourself in that woman today. You need to become that woman today. Regardless of what you're going through, become this woman called a woman of issue of blood. Become it. Understand the message. It's not about the gender, it's about the message. So it says, Luke chapter 8, verse 43 says, and a woman having an issue of blood. Can we, New King James, please? So that I don't have to say a lot of thou and thee. All right, Luke chapter 8, verse 43. Found it? It will say, and suddenly, I believe, or now. All right, let's read it like that. And a woman having an issue of blood, 12 years, which had spent all her living upon physicians, either could be healed of any, came behind him and touched the border of his garment, and immediately her issue of blood stanched. Verse 45. And Jesus said, who touched me? When all denied it, Peter and those with him said, Master, the multitudes throng and press you. You say, who touched me? But Jesus said, somebody touched me, for I perceive power going out from me. 47. Now when the woman saw that she was not hidden, she came trembling and falling down before him. She declared to him in the presence of all the people the reason she had touched him and how she was healed immediately. And he said to her, daughter, be of good cheer. Your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Matthew chapter 9, verse 20 to 22. The same story. But Luke is a doctor. He gets to the point. He diagnoses your problems and gets to the point. But Matthew is a historian. So Matthew gives us the story behind this issue of blood of this woman. Gives us why. Verse 20. It says, and suddenly a woman who had flow of blood for 12 years came from behind and touched the hem of his garment. What is the reason? Luke doesn't tell us the reason. He said there was immediately or suddenly, and women came and touched Jesus. But Matthew says, verse 21, for she said to herself, if I may touch his garment, I shall be made well. But Jesus turned around. When he saw her, he said, "Be of good cheer, daughter. Your faith has made you well." And the woman was made well from that hour. Go back to verse 20, and I want us to. It says, "And suddenly a woman who had a flow of blood for 12 years came from behind and touched the hem of his garment," talking about Jesus. Verse 21 is our message, where we get our message from. He said, "For she said to herself," somebody say expectation. "For she said to herself, if only I may touch his garment, I shall be made well." Now you can imagine Jesus was always walking with multitude of people. Number one, he had the disciples with him, 12. Number two, he had multitude. Multitude of people means a lot. Most of the time, the majority of people that followed Jesus was more women than men. And the women, when they followed Jesus, they didn't just follow Jesus by themselves. They also followed Jesus with their children. And so just imagine Jesus walking in the crowd, and all of a sudden, there is this hundreds or even thousands of people, and this particular woman made up her mind in the beginning. She made up her mind the day before or the night before. She heard that Jesus was coming to town. And when she heard that Jesus was coming to town, she sat down. She knew her problem is coming to an end. So she sat down, calculated the situation, and said, "I know Jesus will always walk with a lot of people. It will be impossible for me to hug him. It will be impossible for me even to grab him. But what I need to do is just touch something of his part. If I touch something of Jesus' part, I know my problem will be solved." The Bible said this woman was suffering for 12 years. She's been going through this problem for 12 years. So wherever you want to call it, if it's a female problems or other type of issue, the doctors have not given to us, or the Bible did not describe what this issue of blood is. But we know she has an issue of blood. And so she had decided, imagine living with this condition for these years. How uncomfortable that is. And I know many women will understand this, how uncomfortable this will be. And so this woman was in this situation for 12 years. And all of a sudden now her miracle was coming. But she did not just want to let her miracle bypass. She made up her mind. She had an expectation. And she calculated her expectation. She said, "Today, I am going just to touch a little bit of his body." Because she understands Jesus is a miracle worker. She understands that Jesus is the answer to all our problems. And she have heard around the town that Jesus was going on healing the sick, curing disease, Jesus raising people from the dead. She knew what she wanted. And so she immediately, in fact, if you understand the Hebrew, the way they wear clothes is different the way we wear clothes. Most of our clothes are very tight to us. But back then, the clothes were not tight. Their clothes were similar to what Abraham is wearing right now. This was what they were wearing. And so, but the Hebrews, in their clothes, they had a new, a different style. Everything at the bottom of the clothes was nicked together like a shredded part at the end. And all this shredded part had a message talking about how God delivered them in the past. And so every clothes had this thread in it. And so this woman said, "I'm just going to touch Jesus." But can I tell you this? This woman actually didn't just touch the entire body of Jesus. She only just touched a little thread, that little thread at the end. And the Bible said Jesus knew that the virtue, power went out to heal the woman. And she immediately could not hide because the answer was immediately seen. She came out to Jesus and said, "Jesus, it is me." And Jesus said, "Daughter, your faith." Can you see the expectation connected to what? To faith. So she had an expectation, and then her expectation produced a faith, and that faith produced an action, and that action produced a result. 4 things. It started with what? Expectation. And then it took faith to walk towards Jesus. Then when she took the faith, it was an action that she took. Because faith comes by hearing Jesus. And then the next thing, when you hear Jesus, there is something that needs to happen called action of faith. And that woman took the action of faith. And as she took the action of faith, then Jesus can never deny anybody who complied to the rule of faith. So she did her part, expectation. She did her part, believing in Jesus. She did her part, acting in faith. Then result must always come when these things are in place. So you can see many of our problems today. The reason why we're not seeing miracle in our life, we're not seeing breakthrough in our life, these things are not met. The principles are not met. The solutions are not met. The avenues are not met. What the expectation of Jesus for you to receive a miracle. Because every blessing that comes from God, it has a condition attached to it. So if you want to see a miracle before this year ends or even into the new year, there has to be an expectation. What have you said this year? Maybe some of you from January, you've made an expectation that God, I want this to happen. But your expectation were not expectation, they were wishes, they were never expectation. You see, there's a difference between wish and expectation. A wish is something that you desire, but an expectation is based on the word of God. Because the Bible says hope is a definition of expectation. And another definition, I'll give it to you soon. Let's open it actually before I get into my message more. Acts chapter 3, verse 4 to 5. The definition of expectation. What does it mean? Bible always translates or brings definition of Bible meaning or messages. So if you want to find the message of a word, it's always within the Bible. This was also within another story of a man, a lame man. He was from the day he was born, the guy was lame. He could not walk, meaning he was paralyzed. He was sitting at the temple, begging for food all the time. Look at this now, what Peter and John did. So Peter and John came to them and said, silver and gold I do not have, but such as I have, I give to you. And then the Bible said, Peter told them, look on us or look at me. That means you need to look to Jesus for your faith to come. You need to look to Jesus for your faith to come. You need to look to Jesus for your faith to come. And so verse 4 said, and fixing his eyes on him, and with John, Peter said, look what? Look at us. Meaning look at Jesus. So when you want expectation, the expectation is defined based on Jesus, the focal point. Here is the meaning of expectation. Go back to verse 4 again. It says, and fixing his eyes on him, with John, Peter said, look at us. Verse 5. So who was he? The paralyzed man. The same thing as the woman. So he said, so he gave them his expectation. His attention. Expecting what? To receive something. So expectation is always you are receiving something. So when we talk about an expectation, it's not a wish. A wish is your desire. Expectation, there is always something to receive from expectation. Because expectation is fixed to Jesus. It has to be connected to Jesus. So, from this story, what can we learn? Number one, expectation is defined based on what Jesus is saying and doing. Expectation is based on what Jesus is saying and doing. Because the Bible says she made up her mind that if I go to Jesus, meaning expectation starts with the focal point on Jesus. Then number two, the Bible said that she calculated. That means there is a thinking required in order to receive your expectation. So she said, if I go and touch, she calculated the answer. That means if we want to see the result in our life, we need to find the way it will come through for us. She the only way for her to get miracle is to go to Jesus. But the Bible says there is many ways to go to Jesus. Going to Jesus does not mean you go physically to Jesus. You have to learn from the centurion man. The centurion man said, just send your word. So I don't need to go to Jesus physically in order to receive an answer from Jesus. So sometimes all we need is a word spoken to us. And the Bible, you need to calculate, where can I find Jesus for my situation? And so she calculated, said for her is to come in contact with Jesus. For the lame man, Peter gave him the answer, look on us. Go to another person who represents Jesus. And then to the centurion man, all he had to say, he said, I know if you speak a word, it will come to pass. Third method of calculation to see the answer result. So he said, if I found your word, everything is pointing to Jesus. You go in contact with Jesus, you hear what Jesus is saying, or you take what Jesus have said. Calculated. Number 3 now. Once you have done your calculation, it's called the actions of faith. This woman did not sit there at home and said, I know Jesus will appear in my roof somehow. I know Jesus will come to me somehow. Maybe Jesus would meet me at the shopping center. Maybe Jesus would meet me at the supermarket. No. She said, I will go. So she took action. Every time faith comes alive, there has to be an action. So expectation is tied to an action. There has to be an action. She took an action. She went to. You see, many of us are waiting for Jesus to come to us. But sometime, or 100%, most time, Jesus is waiting on us. Let me tell you this truth. Jesus is actually waiting on us. The Bible says it is finished, meaning everything that you required in life is already done. But you need to go to Jesus. You need to go to Jesus. Your money is to Jesus. Your finance is to Jesus. Your breakthrough is to Jesus. Your deliverance is to Jesus. You just need to know that Jesus has it. You can't wait for Jesus to come to you. You gotta go to Jesus, because you're going to Jesus speaks to Jesus' volume that this woman, this man has faith to receive. You got to go. You see, many of us have made an expectation January this year, but many of our expectations did not come to pass. Many of our expectations did not come to pass. Some of us didn't even calculate what needs to happen in order to receive this. And some of us didn't know how to take the action in order to go to Jesus, rather than waiting on Jesus to come to us. It takes the mercy of Jesus to come to us. But if you're a believer, God does not want a believer to operate in mercy. God wants a believer to operate in grace. And the grace is based on faith. It's only the unbeliever who needs mercy, because they don't know what faith is. And so she went to Jesus, and I love Jesus. Jesus will never deny anybody who acted in faith. Action, action, action. He says, show me your faith by your works. That means if I want to know that your faith is true, there has to be an action. And I like Jesus. Jesus said, woman, all of these things was because of your faith, not my faith. Did you hear it was Jesus' faith? No. Jesus has faith. But Jesus' faith is for us to have faith in Him. And so she took the action. But Jesus calculated everything and said, it was your faith. It was your faith. Expectation produces action. And so, in order to receive miracle anywhere in the world, anywhere in the scripture, anyway that God is saying, there has to be an expectation. Are you ready to make an expectation in the 2024 that is coming? Because if you do not make an expectation the same year that passed by now, you'll be in the same class, in the same house, in the same job, in the same pathway, but never elevating. Wanting a miracle, not seeing a miracle. Wanting a solution, but not seeing a solution. Because there is no expectation based on faith, no expectation based on action, no expectation based on a calculated way of going to Jesus. For example, there are many of us want to, for example, get a house, but we have not calculated down what we want to see God do. How God will bring that, we didn't calculate. And some of us want to see maybe His relationship, but we do not calculate how God will do that. Some of us wanted a breakthrough, but we've not calculated how God will do that. But I want to tell you, expectation produces a calculation of your mind, and then it produces faith. And when it produces faith, it produces action. If you honestly think about it, some of us have made wishes, not expectation. Some of us have made wishes. Oh, I wish I would get a car this year. I wish I would go to this. I wish I would be speaking in tongues this year. I wish I'd be so spiritual this year. We're making wishes all the time, but we're not giving an expectation. Expectation is going to Jesus with a pathway in order to see God coming through for you. So this woman came with a pathway. Said, if I go to Jesus, I know Jesus will come. Have you made a pathway, a calculated pathway to see Jesus come through? Zacchaeus, if you want to know your Bible, Zacchaeus wanted an encounter with Jesus. What did Zacchaeus do? Zacchaeus heard that Jesus was coming to town. What did he do? What did he do? The Bible said this man was short. He was too short. He knows he cannot see Jesus within the crowd because the crowd is so much. What did Zacchaeus do? Zacchaeus climbed a tree, calculated. He said, I will be an engineer to receive Jesus today. I will be an engineer. What I need to do is look for a tree that will elevate me to a position when Jesus sees me, He cannot deny me. Expectation. You need to have this calculated expectation. Zacchaeus said, I want an encounter with God because I'm a thief, because I'm stealing people's money. I rob people of taxes. But I heard that Jesus is a miracle worker. Zacchaeus decided to go into a tree. Like some of you, you need to go into a place of having an encounter with God. Calculated. Some of you need to say, you know what, I need to go to a resort and have a retreat with God in order to have an encounter with God. Some of you need to say, you know what, I need to close my room, shut it all dark, completely dark, and just speak in tongues or talk to God. Until God comes, then I will not leave this room. Calculated expectation. Many years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, I said to God, I locked myself. I went to my sister's house. I closed the door for 3 days. I said, I'm not leaving this house until I hear God speak to me of what I need. I closed the door, shut my phone, threw it all away. Calculated expectation. Some of you need to do that. Some of you need to go on a retreat to find the key to your faith coming to life. Some of you need to begin to make a decision to come to church regularly to find Jesus. Because some of us, we want to see Jesus in our life, but we're not willing to take the steps to come to church every week. No expectation. No calculated expectation. You have to have this calculated expectation. I've made up my mind this year in January. 3 things I asked God. That's been my prayer consistently the whole of this year. Consistent. God, give me favor to achieve my destiny. God, give me prosperity to make sure Ascendant Church is in the place where it needs to be. God, give us finance so that my spirituality can be focused. You see, when you're too broke, you cannot be spiritual. But when you have money, you can be spiritual because you don't have to be chasing money. So I said, God, I need to be prosperous. I need financial base so I can have time. You know, many of us go into our prayer, most of our prayer is about give me all the time. But when God has met that need of yours, now you can actually focus on God consistently. Expectation. I got tired one time. I said, God, I cannot do this. I cannot just just be praying about particular thing. I need to focus on the bigger things. And like this year, I said to God, my prayers is all about Ascendant Church, nothing about my family. I said to God, I don't want to pray anything about my family. When it's my prayer, personal prayer, it'll be me and the church. And God said to me, if you do that, I'll take care of your family. Expectation. Some of you have made an expectation, and you're giving up already. You're discouraged. You have been discouraged because you have not seen the result. Imagine this woman was going to this big multitude of crowd, and all of a sudden her bestie comes on the side of the street and say, hey, bestie, guess what? Let's go to the shopping mall at the moment. If she is smart and she wanted an answer, say, my friend, meet me tomorrow. Today, I am going to see Jesus. But some of us, our friends calls us to go outside to catch up and all. We forget what God wants us to do. We get distracted on the way. And then we get discouraged on the way when people insult us. When people talk about us. When people say things about us. When you give up too quickly, you never get your miracle. This woman for 12 years. 12 years. Some of you 1 year, just God has not answered your prayer and you're already giving up. Some of you it's 2 years and you're already giving up. You have to ask until expectation says, God, until it comes. Whether it takes me 10 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, God, I want this and I want it to happen. That's called faith with expectation. You have to cry out to God. Expectation is you calculate the answer. Like me, I want an anointing to work in miracle signs and wonders. Guess what? At the end of every month, I do miracle service here. And then on top of it, I go to my mentor and I attend his service for miracle service as well. And I lead, in the middle of the TV, I'm sitting in front of the TV like this. And I'm laying my hand, God, I need the anointing to work in miracle signs. Every month. I wake up at 3 a.m. Every month. At the end of the month, I work after service here, I go home. And I prepare myself at 3 a.m. praying with my mentor. I want miracle signs and wonders. Expectation. I put an action and God is granting it to me. What are you doing to get your answer? Expectation. Maybe you need a job, but you have not been applying and you have not put a deadline to God. Say, God, I want it by this month. Expectation. And you calculate how it will come about. And you live your faith now to bring it to pass. You did your action or you do your action. Calculated expectation. For example, you wanna be used by God. You don't wake up in the middle of the night and pray. You don't spend time in reading the Word of God. You will never get that. You'll never get that. You want the presence of God to come into your life. You want God to flow through you, but you're not putting this calculated expectation. You want to be a woman for example, I've heard of a story. A woman wanted to become, there's a pastor's wife, basically. This is a pastor's wife. So, it was Crawford Dollar. You guys know Crawford Dollar? Yeah. So his wife she's a doctor. So she wanted to get a job as a doctor. And so what she did, she began to talk and said, I got the job. I got the job. I got the job. She applied everywhere and I got the job. All her prayer, I got the job. Thank you, Father, I got the job. And then her husband said, did you get the job? She said, yes, I got the job. The children asked, did you get the job? I got the job. She applied to everyone, but she has not got the job. But she's already talking like it, walking like it, behaving like it. She made an expectation. And she said also, I'm going to put before this time, this will happen. And can I tell you this? It happened exactly. Let me give you another expectation. There was a woman who had goiter. She went to Benny Hinn ministry. She had a goiter here. So she went to Benny Hinn ministry, and Benny Hinn is anointed for healing. And so she went the first night, and Benny Hinn, all he did was be healed in the name of Jesus. But the goiter was still there. So she went with 3 people, and she left back. The people in the car were asking her, hey, but I thought you said if you go to Benny Hinn will hit you. She said, I'm healed. But they said, aren't you crazy? We can see the tumor there. The goiter is still there. She said, no, I'm healed. She already made a calculated expectation. As long as she made Benny Hinn, she knows she's healed. So, the second day, she came back again to the same program. Healing program is going on. The same thing. She said, I know I'm healed. I know I am healed. Because already Benny Hinn prayed the first day. So she went to the program the same, saying, I am healed. The people are asking, stop being mad. You're still there. We can see the goiter on you. It's a big tumor of cancer right there. What are you talking about? Then so she decided, God, show them. Show them that I am healed. So she went the third day. Even Benny Hinn come on the stage, the thing disappeared. Calculated expectation. She made an expectation and said, within this, I want to receive. For example, if you want to be spiritual, or you want to receive the gifts of tongue. For example, for me to receive the gift of tongue, I said if I go to that conference, at the end of that conference, I will receive the gift of tongues. I made what? An expectation with a deadline. Calculated. I say if I go there, the first day it didn't happen. The second day it didn't happen. But I like God, it's always the third day or the fourth day. God always, He waits for your patience. He sees your faith. So that means if you have an expectation and somehow you didn't see it the way you wanted it, don't give up. Keep pushing. Keep waiting. Keep trusting. God will always come through. The Bible says, have you ever seen the righteous forsaken or begging for bread? That's a rhetorical question that God is asking you and me. He says, have you ever seen the righteous? Who is the righteous? You and I. As long as you're a believer, you are the righteousness of God. As long as you're a believer, He says that you will never be forsaken and you will never beg for bread. Expectation. So you have this confidence of good that God will come through for me. Confident expectation. I want to stir your faith for 2024. Make bold expectation. But you have to calculate it. Calculate it, put the date, put the time. God, it has to come by this time. And then in the middle, what must I do? And if it does not happen the time, you keep on pressing. God, you said it. If I do this, it will come. So I'm going to keep on trusting you. Expectation. Expectation. With faith. Bartimaeus, blind Bartimaeus, the guy was not sitting there begging people for money. He said, I had enough. I am a child of covenant. He said that when he saw Jesus passing by, the Bible says, he said, Jesus, have mercy on me. He understood something, that whenever you call out to Jesus in mercy, and then he also is a child of the covenant of David, God will never deny him. So Jesus responded, say, what do you want? So Jesus already knows what he needs, right? Jesus knows he's blind, but yet Jesus is asking. Expectation. Where's the calculation? Or what do you want? Then Bartimaeus said, I want to see. I want to see. Then Jesus is good and gave him his sight. You have to know, calculate the expectation. Make a big calculation. Right now, me and my wife, for 2024, we're trusting God for these two big things. I'm doing it for her. For me, I don't like things. I want God to just surprise me. And so, I said, no worries. We'll do it. I'm doing it for my family. But if it's about me, to be honest with you, if it's about me, I don't want to ask for myself. All I want is to help people. That's why I asked God, give me grace to teach. Give me grace for favor. Give me prosperity so for the church to be blessed. I'm just asking all about me. That's been my principle. Because I know if I deal with God and with His people, He will deal with me. And we put an expectation for how and when it should come. You got to do the same. And if it does not come the time you want to say, God, you're not a liar. It says in your word that if we ask anything in faith, it will be given to us. What's the problem? Is it a problem with you or me? Maybe I did not act in faith. Maybe I did not calculate right. Now point back to yourself. Never point to God. Many of us are pointing to God. God, maybe because, no, it's not God. Most of the time it's us. we have drifted away a little bit with fear. We have drifted away a little bit with doubt. We have drifted away maybe with sin. We have drifted away with something. We have not honored our pastors and our leaders, and so God will uphold some things from us. I'm being honest, that happens too. As a pastor, I don't want to say it, but it does happen. That's God's business, but it's written in the scriptures. There's some things God upholds from us. It's not that He's willing not to give it to us. He wants to give it to us. It's because we're not acting in faith. So go back to Act as we conclude and get into our prayer. It says, look on us. And it says, and fixing his eyes on him, John and Peter said, look at us. Today, I want you to look at Jesus. Don't look at Pastor Samuel. I want you to look at Jesus for the expectation that you have. Maybe some of you have already written your expectation. Maybe some of you have not written your expectation. Right now, I want to give you a time to write the expectation. Write it down. The Bible says in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2 to 3, it says, wait for it. Though it tarries, surely it will come to pass. Say, write the vision. Write the vision and see. Wait for it. Surely it will come to pass. So Peter said, look at us. Change your perspective to look to Jesus. Look to Jesus. And then when you're looking to Jesus, expect what you have prayed for. Expect what you have written to come to pass. Verse 5 said, so he gave them his attention, expecting, hallelujah, expecting to receive something from them. Every time you put an expectation, expect that God will bring it to pass. Expect it, expect it, expect it. Let's all stand up together.